Hello students. So as your exams are approaching, we need a quick revision of all the chapters. So today we are here with the two chapters of footprints without feet. So first we are starting with the making of a scientist. What was the story behind this and what did we learn from the chapter? So the chapter, it revolves around the life of a leading scientist of his era, Richard E. Bright. As the name itself suggests, the story tells us about how he got interested in the field of science, and so he got the privilege in the later years with his hard work, love and dedication towards the world of science. So he was entirely given or devoted towards the field of science. From his very childhood, Richard E. Bright was a very curious child. He had great dedication and interest in researching new things. E. Bright's mother was very kind lady. He loved his mother and he was very close to her. She contributed a lot in making Richard E. Bright a perfect scientist and one of his era. She gave him a book that was named as The Travel of Monarch X. So from this book, when he read this book, his life changed. How this book helped him to understand the world of science in a much better way. The book acknowledged the country's science fair and E. Bright used to collect the butterflies. So this was his hobby initially, but how it changed into a dedication. In his second grade, he had collected 25 species of his area. Apart from this, he also used to collect the fossils, coins and rocks. While studying in the 8th grade, he studied about the viral fever caused in the butterflies, which led to almost existence of all the butterfly species. He estimated that it was because of the presence of beetle, so that the beetle is growing along with the butterfly. In order to find out the reason, he allowed the butterflies to grow in the presence of beetles, and the estimation posed by E. Bright was wrong because it was found out later that beetles do not harm butterfly in any way. So in the later years, he researched on the topic of the viceroy butterflies. He found that the viceroy butterfly copies the monarch. Why? Because the birds, they do not like the taste of monarch, and therefore viceroy, they copy monarch so as to save themselves from the prey of a bird. This project got the first prize in the zoology division and the second prize in the country science fair. From here, E. Bright, throughout his life, he has done a lot of research right from the very childhood. While studying in the second year of his high school, he discovered an unknown insect hormone, and from here, this particular discovery of his led to the study of new theory on the life of cell. This has to be marked important. After a year, E. Bright noticed that the golden spots on the back of the monarch pupa. This particular research opened the ways of E. Bright to enroll as a scientist. Now this is important, where the Walter Reed Army Institute of Science, and this also gave opportunity to E. Bright to work with them on the project. He got recognized and his research earned him the first prize in the country science fair after that. A dream he has been watching since childhood, to be recognized, to be praised for the research or the work that he did. Then as a high school student, he started carrying out advanced research. He started studying to identify hormone chemical structure within the body, a living body. After so many efforts, one day while looking at the X-ray photos of the new theory, he found that a cell can read blueprints of the DNA. He and one of his roommates made a plastic model of DNA working principle. It was illustrated that the whole process was carried out in a DNA working. This took a second big turning point in Ebright's life. Why? Because it was recognized widely and finally it got published in the magazine. So, it was the very first time that any article or any discovery research of a new college student would be published in a magazine. It was for the very first time. So, it was important for Ebright and it was also a turning point in his life. Ebright passed from one of the biggest college of all time, the Harvard, with the highest honors. Now, if we are asked a question about how was Ebright, or we have to give a character sketch of Ebright. So, Ebright was just not a researcher or a scientist, he also had an immense interest in public speaking and also debating. Being a perfectionist in all the fields of education, the fields of science, he also was a voracious. What is the meaning? It's an enthusiastic person who speaks wonderfully and explains things wonderfully. So, he was a voracious public speaker, he was a superb canoeist and an outdoor person. He was the perfect example of a competitive and ambitious person. He proved to the world that even if you are competitive and ambitious, you can still become a good person. You don't always have to fight for achieving a position. You can still do it with all the dedication and kind heart. So, he was very genuine and a kind person. Ebright was a wonderful person who acquired all the qualities of being a perfect scientist. So, this is basically a short character sketch about Ebright if we are asked in the exam. Now, here are some important questions related to this particular chapter. So, first is, without the support and motivation of his mother, Richard Ebright would not have been a successful scientist. This is very true because we have read the chapter. So, do you agree? Elaborate. How can you say that Ebright had all the qualities of a perfect scientist? So, here two questions that are merged. The first one says that his mother was very important for him to make him a perfect scientist. Why? Because she was the one who brought him the travel of monarchs, and from here his vision towards science, his vision towards new research, it developed, it changed, and therefore it was very important because she used to bring him telescopes and all the things of science that were important to him. Then can you say that he had the qualities of a perfect scientist that we already saw here? Yes, he was very kind, he was generous, he was a voracious public speaker. He used to speak so enthusiastically that it could build up any person's mind towards any field. Then the next question says that Richard Ebright had all the ingredients required for being a perfect scientist. Do you agree? Why or why not? Now here we have to explain why was he a perfect scientist. Not only because of the experiments he did, not only because of the discoveries, the researches that he did, but here what we read, he was a perfect example of a competitive and a ambitious person. So, he was very ambitious towards his goals. What he was lacking was a time that he did not won the prize, and after that era he just got into a phase that I have to prove the world that I can research, we can say his dedication basically had to be awarded because he made a aim for achieving, like, I have to be recognized in the front of public or in a lot of people, in front of a lot of people. Now, what opened the world of science for Richard Ebright? So, here again we will explain What opened the field of science? The travel of Monarch X. And here you will explain all the things that his mother brought him, the telescope, all the equipments he required for the science field, and how this book led to the discoveries, different discoveries that he did with the butterfly species. He used to grow them, he used to have a house built for them, and then he also tagged those butterflies and left them that to know what distance they can travel to. So all these things will be answered under question number 3. Now children, after this chapter we have the next chapter, the necklace. Now here we will see a small summary about what is this chapter about. So this entire story revolves around a selfish lady called the Madam Matilda Loisel. She lived in an apartment with her husband, that was Mr. Loisel, and she was very unhappy and unsatisfied with what life had given her. So she was not at all praising, or she was not at all appreciable what was given to her in life. She always criticized different things. So she was unhappy with the apartment's shabby walls. They were unclean, they were dirty, and the worn out furniture. So she was also irritated by the way her husband reacted to the homemade food while she dreamt of the royal dinners. So her husband, he was a satisfied man, he was happy with what he had, but this Matilda Loisel, she was unhappy and she always dreamt of some royal dinners, a royal bungalow or a house, and she was not at all happy with the present life she was leading. So she always thought for the royal dinners being served in the exquisite silver dishes. So she always thought of the big hotels or restaurants where different dishes were lying on the table, and she was basically she was unsatisfied with her life. They were neither rich nor poor, so they were a middle class family. She had to marry a clerk in the office of the Board of Education just because her family couldn't afford to give her dowry. So this man would be kind enough to ask for a nil amount or no dowry, and therefore her parents got her married to this man. She also hated visiting her old friend Madame Jenny Froister because she was rich and she had some sort of jealousy, we can say, for that lady. As she was rich lady and Matilda envied her. So she disliked her for no reason, just because she was unhappy what she had, and she was used to look at this Jen Froister that she had much more things what Matilda actually wanted in her life. Whenever she visited her, she became sad and cried for the days together. She always used to think of the past days that they spent together in school, college, and that. One day when her husband returned home from work, he got an invitation to a party at the house of the Minister of the Public Instruction. Contrary to his expectation, Matilda was irritated and angry and threw the card away. So this was unexpected by her husband. She was upset because she didn't have anything to wear at the extravagant party. So this party would be huge. It was a ball, and it was a ball at the minister's house. So she had to look rich. She had to look pleasant around all the pretty ladies present there. So she was upset. Her husband gave her 400 francs to buy a new dress, and that he had been saving to buy a gun so that he could go hunting with his friends. So this was some extra money he used to save from his salary or the extraordinary earnings he had, and he wanted to have a gun so that he could join his friends for this hunting where he usually lagged and he did not go. Then after buying the dress, she was sad because she did not have jewelry to make herself look more appealing to others and attractive. Her husband suggested that she could borrow jewelry from her friend Madame Froister. When Meme Loisel went to her friend's house, she agreed on, okay, I'll borrow a necklace from her, and then she went to the friend's house and described all the situation she was facing and showed her the cupboard So Madam Foister, she was kind enough to help her friend, and she did not say even a word like, why are you picking up my jewelry, or why don't you purchase one for you. She was kind enough. So she asked her to choose whatever Madam Louisel wanted and she liked. So Matilda chose a precious diamond necklace which was kept in the black satin box. Now they went to the minister's party and all the men admired her as she was looking gorgeous in her new dress and jewelry. So dress so she had purchased for the with those 400 francs that her husband had given her, and jewelry she arranged from her friend. They returned at 4 in the morning. By the time Madame Louisel had already dozed off in one, Mr. Louisel had already dozed in one of the room with the 3 other men. They decided to leave and couldn't find a carriage. So finally, after walking for a while, they got a carriage. This was after Madame Louisel got free from the party. The men had already slept in the barber's shop and the ladies were enjoying the party inside the hall. So they finally got the carriage when Madame Louisel came out, which dropped them right outside their door where their house was. Matilda realized that she did not have the necklace, and then Mr. Louisel, he went out to search at the railway tracks for the necklace. Wherever they went, outside the ball where they were having the party, on the roads. Then Mr. Louisel went to the police station as well, the cab office, so that they could find the cab they hired for coming to home, and also gave an advertisement for the reward to the person who returned the necklace. Meanwhile, he also told his wife to tell her friend that the clasp of the necklace had broken, and so it would give them a much more time than what she expect, that Matilda will come and now she'll return my necklace. So he just asked Matilda to make an excuse that the clasp has broken and we need to get it fixed before returning. So he said that after a week, when the necklace couldn't be found, they decided to replace it with a similar one. So here the story begins, the actual story where Matilda and she also made her husband suffer. So they found a similar necklace priced at 36 francs, which actually was of 40,000 francs, but they negotiated with the shopkeeper and they finally purchased it for 36,000 francs. Fortunately, Mr. Louisel had inherited 18,000 francs from his father, and who had died, and the rest one he borrowed. So he asked for the lenders and he asked every friend to give him small amount, and now he had a lot of amount that was borrowed or lent. So it took them 10 years to repay all the loans, and in these years their life changed drastically. How? They moved to a smaller apartment and removed their maid. So they had to send their maid away. Matilda cooked the food and washed the clothes herself. Even Mr. Louisel had worked multiple jobs to repay the borrowed money. In these years, Madame Louisel started looking much more older, her hair badly dressed, her voice became loud, and she became a normal person who would carry a basket to the grocery store, the butcher store and the fruit store. So now, earlier at least she had a maid so that she could get a little help in all the household chores and all, but now she had to do each and everything because they could not afford a maid now. So she became, her voice became loud and she became a normal person. Now she did not have a life of comfort and luxury, who could go to the grocery store herself, the butcher store and the fruit store to buy the daily supplies. One day she met her friend Jenny Froister with a child and decided to tell her the truth and explain how she was indirectly responsible for her aged looks. So now she wanted to make Madame Froister responsible or feel guilty for all the sins she had done. So here, and her living condition. She explained how she lost the borrowed necklace and had to take a loan for replacing it. On hearing this, Janet told Matilda that the necklace she had borrowed was a fake one and was not even more of worth than 500 francs. So instead of this 500 francs necklace, they had to repay the loans for 10 years and they made themselves suffer along with it. So this is the story, the necklace. Now let us see the important questions related to the chapter. So the first one is, what was the cause of Matilda's ruin? How could she have avoided it? Now this was all planned by Matilda, that I want to go at the ball of the ministers, and then she asked her husband to buy her a new dress. Then she also wanted a jewelry. So this was some sort of selfishness, or we can say greed, that got Matilda into this problem or trouble. So she could have avoided it by making herself comfortable with the things she already possessed. And what changes came into the life of Loisels after the necklace was lost? So here we will explain both the life of both Matilda as well as her husband. Our inability to accept our circumstances may lead to an unhappy life. Explain with reference to the story, The Necklace. Now this is a value based question, as we can already see. So here you have to write, using your intellect, you will write the answer like, how can we avoid circumstances like these in our life? How can we do that? We can do that if we are, comfortable, if we accept the things that we own are the best, and we do not look what others have got. So this, using your intellect, you have to answer to this question. Then the last question says, at the end of the 10 years, they had restored all. Now what had Matilda and her husband restored, and at what cost? So here you will explain each and everything, that initially she was unhappy lady. She could not see others happy. She was much more of a greedy person than she was actually, and she was not happy with the life she was living. So here everything had to be told, and then you will tell them that after the life she was living for 10 years, what was restored, all the amount that she had paid. Together, Mr. and Madam Loisel had paid. So it was restored, that it took them 10 years to repay just 18,000 francs, because 18,000 were already available to them because of their father. So this was the summary of the two chapters, The Making of a Scientist and The Necklace. Now just you have to go through once more and see the important questions and try to answer it on your own. Okay, so this was for it today, children. We'll meet in the next video with the next two chapters of your Footprints Without Feedback. Okay, that's all for today. Bye. Have a good day.